Thank you. So I didn't mean to ask you.
You see me cutting my phone off.
Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners and welcome all of you here. We're happy to have you here with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief John Slaughter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight, person is not here. Errol, can you handle it for me? Thank you so much.
He probably got hooked up in something.
He probably did. Thank you so much. You're always my backup, and I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
One short announcement.
Yes, let's hear it.
Vacation Bible School, if you look around, I think Methodist Church is getting ready to start one. Our Baptist Church, Wendell Baptist, is July 19th to the 24th. It's an evening time, and just a great time for kids. We did a little something different this summer as well with our preschool, because most of our preschoolers have got big brothers and sisters, so we're actually taking in kids up through second grade, Monday through Thursdays, and it's really worked out well. So anyhow, that's kind of what's going on.
Thank y'all for doing that.
Yeah, it was a great fireworks the other night, too.
Fun?
Yeah. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this wonderful day you've given us. Thank you, Lord, how you watch over us, take care of us. We are just so proud of so many things that are happening in Wendell. Just continue to keep your arms around us, keep us encouraged. Bless our board, keep them focused on you. We just ask, Lord, that you continue to watch over our state and our country. Give us peace, give us wisdom, give us understanding. For all these things we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
Errol, that's why you got the Mayor's Award. Always here for me, and I really appreciate it, so thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We have no one signed up for public comment tonight, but if you are interested, you can sign up for public comment the night of the meeting right outside the door. You have 3 minutes to speak, or you can submit your comments to the town clerk via email by the Friday by 5 o'clock before the Friday that's preceding the Monday night's meeting, and they will be read into the minutes for 3 minutes, read into the agenda for 3 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. And item 4A is a public art plan project update presentation by our planning director, Brian Coates. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. I'm going to give you a couple project updates, the next few agenda items. And so if you have questions along the way, don't be afraid to ask them as we go. And so I'll get started here. The Public Art Master Plan was started this last fiscal year with staff. We saw many of you at different events as we were out trying to engage the community with surveys. This is a staff-initiated project. It was identified in Blueprint Wendell 2030 as when we were talking about the town with citizens in that process. they identified art and all the murals in downtown as kind of a focus. And so there's some goals in the comp plan related to public art. This project, as I said, it's staff initiated. It's a team of staff working on this, developing it. The first step was the survey. We had roughly 314 completed surveys, a lot of interest. The survey was in English and Spanish. We had paper copies online. Those are the in-person events that we attended, quite a variety this spring. Thank staff for participating, making sure we had everything ready for those events. We also had a wide variety of social media comments, shares, and likes on Facebook and Instagram. And so we had, I thought, a pretty good turnout of surveys. So I'm going to go over what people said in those surveys and how they responded, and then go over kind of our next steps for the project. Of course, we did ask age, try to get a wide variety. We did, as you can see by our events, we were at food truck events, we were at senior center. Bulk of our survey respondents were between 25 and 54, which is pretty typical of any surveys. It is our young age of our community. We have a lot of young families, and so getting those mix of survey respondents was what we kind of had anticipated. We did choose some of those in-person events based on, making sure that we were in places where there was a wide variety of people. 87% lived or work in Wendell. We did hear from residents that lived outside of Wendell. And then simple question, would you like to see more public art? Of course, 96% said yes. Very similar in the comp plan when we asked questions on public art, there was wide support for that. How important is it to you to inclusion of public art and installations in the streetscape? 77% said very important or extremely important. So there's a lot of interest in that. What types of public art? So there was a variety of things, and there were images in the survey. So if you didn't know the official what type of art, there were some photos there to help guide you. A lot of interest when it comes to landscape art, also murals, which we have a variety of them already. There was a lot of interest in more of those. And then you could see architectural art ranked pretty high, land art, landscape art, community art. And so there was just a wide variety. And then music, performance, and theater, which got a lot of votes as well. Some of the feedback we got from this question is, why limit me to picking 3? Why couldn't I pick them all? There was quite a few comments related to that. The reason we do that kind of response is we want you to pick a priority, and so it helps guide us what's the most important for people. What do you feel are the most important reasons to invest in public art? There was a wide variety of answers, but it's to beautify our streets and public spaces, to create welcoming spaces for residents, encourage travelers and visitors, and also tell our story, convey who we are and our local identity.
How many of these did you?
I think it was 2, if I recall in this question. Places, what places would you like to see art? Downtown and town parks, where they're certain their highest priorities, but also gateways, entrances, and then the greenways, public trails. And so that, based on what some other towns have done, there are, you got to think about your gateways, your entrances, neighborhoods. There's a lot of things we can do with art beyond the downtown as well. Next steps for the Public Art Master Plan, staff will draft a plan that creates a vision and an action plan to guide our priorities and projects for the community. The draft plan will come back to you as the town board for feedback and adoption. And so we will send out the survey responses so you can see those after the meeting. We'll upload the comments and all of the survey responses to the website. We're hoping this project will wrap up by the end of the calendar year. And so we're in the early phases of drafting kind of that public art master plan with some principles and guide. One of the reasons this has come up is a lot of the murals people really love. They love them all, but some of them are not protected. And so we got to think about, when we do art, how we protect it. Is it an easement with a property owner to make sure it's there for like 10 years, 20 years? How do we protect some of that investment in the community. There may be art that we also want to change out often, and maybe it's, you know, some towns have sculpture trails that they, you know, every 2 years or every year they switch out some of the artwork. And so I think we just need to think about types of art, where we place them, and some programs for the community. So I can field any questions that you have. I just want to give you a quick update on where we were on that project.
Okay, any questions from the board or comments? All right, well, thank you.
You're
Let's
welcome.
move to 4B, our downtown streetscape plan project update.
Yep. Thank you. For this project, our consultant is Withers Ravenel. The project schedule design is expected to be completed by the end of calendar 2024. Description of the downtown streetscape master plan is the scope of work includes the process of site analysis, public input, and design alternatives to create a final design in order to create a complete set of concept drawings of what we want the downtown to look like. The plans, graphics, illustrations, parking study combined will compose the downtown plan. And so we did a similar engagement, but this plan will really cover the development of our streets, the outdoor spaces downtown, sidewalk and pedestrian improvements, on and off-street parking, site lighting, landscaping, furnishings, ADA access, and then stormwater drainage as well. The focus for this is from 4th Street down to 2nd between Cypress and Pine Streets. And so it's a focused area for the plan, but also we are hoping those concepts will be created, and then as downtown grows, we can extend that streetscape out so we have a vision for larger than this area. The first step in this project was getting a community survey. We did have roughly 240 surveys completed. Wide variety of responses, and I'll go through those as well. A lot of in-person events, similar events to the Public Art Master Plan survey. We also had a lot of engagement on our social media. There were a lot of comments when people giving their ideas of ADA and what they want the streetscape to look like. They also reminded us to not mess it up because they love it currently. So there was a lot of good wide range of comments in our social media, a lot of shares and stuff for both surveys, but I'll go over some of these. So this image was the first page of the survey, and it said, are there elements in this image that you'd like to see implemented in downtown Wendell? The word art that I used was all the comments. There were roughly 229 of them on that image. Put it in a word generator, and it kind of prioritizes which words were said the most. So you can see seating outdoor seating was the top thing that people really want us to focus on in that area. There were a lot of comments of more outdoor seating, more restaurants, and we'll go over some of these. And quite a few of the pages, you'll be like, yeah, we keep hearing that same thing when it comes to food and dining. So second question on there was, in some cases, to get that outdoor dining, are you willing to give up some on-street parking? And so there was a wide variety of answers to that. There definitely was some support for that. A lot of people said yes, as long as maybe there's space is created further away that I can still walk reasonably to that outdoor seating. So there's definitely an interest from survey respondents so far that, outdoor seating and kind of the trade-offs, they want to at least explore it and think about it, so. Similar question, do you live in Wendell town limits? Roughly 70% said yes, 30% no. So we're reaching beyond our city limit residents with our surveys, especially at town events. We're pulling in people from the region, and our response to people who are like, hey, I live in another town, or I live, 10 miles away in the county jurisdiction, can I still do it? And we're like, yes, you visit Wendell, we still want to hear from you. So we're getting a good variety. Business owner or tenant, and so 19% said they were a business owner or tenant in the town of Wendell. So we got a good amount of business owners to give us feedback. We did conduct a meeting with the business owners downtown here a couple weeks before the survey went live. We wanted to talk with them before the survey went out there, just making them aware of what their comments and concerns were, and then what the overall general community said as well.
Was there good participation from the businesses?
Yeah, I think we had 15 to 20 people at the first meeting from 15 to 20 different businesses, so yeah, good amount. Age, this survey was roughly 21 questions, so it was a little longer than the public art. So we really did not get under 18, and that is always a challenge, and I want to continue working on that. But we did hear from the same age brackets, 25 to 54. And then how would you describe the current streetscape? And so you can see the words that popped out there: charming, inviting, parking, quaint, friendly. And so there's a wide variety of words that were used in those 231 comments. How frequently do you visit downtown? And so this question was important because it's always nice to see if people come down often. You want a wide variety, and maybe some of the people who don't come down tell us why. So just a little caveat, when we did go to the senior center, they as a group brought up we would go downtown more if there was ADA improvements. And so that was a really good wake-up call, is their responses to the survey have a different component sometimes than other populations. But what is downtown missing? Big surprise out of the comments, restaurants was the top thing. And so, as a town, we'll continue working to address the need for more food options in restaurants in the downtown and outside of downtown as well. But primary mode of transportation to downtown, 84% get there by car. There was a small percent that get there by bicycle or golf cart. Walking was about 11%. So people that live close are walking to downtown. There was some that chose other, and there were a few comments that they wanted to choose multiple options because they depended on the weather or things like that. So good mix. A lot of comments that you'll see later on in some questions. More walking, greenways, and biking access could change that, how people answer that question. And then when you visit downtown, how long are you there? The majority, 63%, over 30 minutes, but under 2 hours. And so one of the challenges moving forward is how do we get people to stay longer? And it's probably different options and choices for them when they do visit. How do you rate pedestrian safety in downtown? Overall, a lot of people said safe, but there were quite a few that said unsafe or neutral. And there's some questions coming up where you'll see where people talked about the need for some improvements. How important are green spaces and public amenities, seating areas, pocket parks? A lot of support for those, between extremely important and very important were the bulk of the answers on that. Are there specific improvements needed for better walking and biking experience? And I think none of these words that are jetting out there, like sidewalk and bike lanes and crosswalks, surprise any of us. So it was good to hear that from people, and it's a good focus that we've been working on for the last few years, and will continue. And I didn't give you every response, and we'll put that in your packet. Do you feel there's adequate parking in downtown? You can see it's split. Yes, no, and some or most of the time. And there were some comments related to nights or weekends. It's a little different during the week. There might be people who say there's plenty. And so it's just a variety of answers. But that, to me, that slide is our challenge as we think about downtown, is there's a good mix of people who say there's enough, no, and sometimes. And so I think just come up with, making sure our plans moving forward address some of the concerns and the reality of the situation as well. Downtown Streetscape Master Plan next steps. The consultants are developing 2 concept plans that will be done by the end of summer. Those 2 concept plans, we will go back out to the public and say, give us feedback on these images. What do you like? What do you have questions on? We will hold another downtown business community meeting as well to get their feedback. And then the final design will come back to you as the town board for feedback and adoption. And again, this project is expected to be wrapped up by the end of the calendar year as well. And I can field any questions you may have on the streetscape project.
Any questions about the streetscape project?
I have one. Can you elaborate on the safety part? Just give me some color on what their non-safe or unsafe or slightly unsafe issues were.
Yeah, a lot of them were related to ADA, lack of sidewalks or lack of crosswalks and lighting and things like that. So they were all pretty much what we kind of expected. But quite a few were ADA related, and lighting or sidewalks, crosswalks, things like that. You're welcome.
Anything else from the board? Okay. Let's move into the Town of Wendell permitting update.
Yep. I'm gonna geek out here a few minutes with data for
I
you.
know.
Y'all know I love this
Everybody
stuff.
Buckle up.
Buckle up. It's just a few, it's like 5 slides, so it won't be that rough.
Okay.
But I will have a quiz when I'm done. So just to give you all a little update on where we are as a town when it comes to jurisdiction, population. You can see population in July 1 of 2023, which that number was just released in May. We were roughly about 14,400 people. Our internal estimate for July 1 of this year is about 16.7, based on, we use Wake County revenue data, which are number of housing units. We apply a vacancy rate and a household size and kind of create a population estimate. So roughly right now, we're growing a little over 2,000 people a year. And I'll go over some permitting levels just to explain, how we verify some of that information as well. Currently, July 1, 2024, we had roughly a little over 6,000 acres in our town limits, 5,000 acres in our ETJ. For the same time frame in 2020, our city limits was roughly 3,800 acres. And our ETJ was a little over 6,000. And so we annexed roughly about 1,000 acres of our ETJ and overall added 2,200 acres to our city limits in that 4-year period. Fiscal year '24, we annexed 204 acres, but last fiscal year, we annexed 1,200. And so those do impact for service delivery and development as we grow as a town. All of our annexations have occurred within our ETJ or in our urban growth area that was designed and designated years ago. Right now, our current population projection for 2030 is roughly 31,000 people. And so we continue to look forward as things change. You can see just in 4 years what's in our city limits, and the growth has changed. To give you an overall of planning staff, in fiscal '24, we were 8 full-time positions. Workload is broken out into kind of a current planning and kind of a long-range planning. Current planning is building permits, zoning letters, sign permits, plats to create lots, inspections, cemetery, and zoning enforcement. Long-range activities are more land use plan amendments, rezoning, text amendments, site plan, and then working on town projects like greenways, park locations, things like that. The blending of what staff does day to day, there are many staff who go between these two columns and, work on sign permits, but also might work on a rezoning. And so there are some staff that are clearly zoning enforcement, or permit technician, are clearly on the current planning side for 100% of their work. But there are other staff that are 50-50, maybe it's 80-20, and a variety based on needs. We now have some staff that can, when someone goes on vacation, we have people who can fill in and do their work. So that's very, very, very helpful. I will say in fiscal '24, we added an admin assistant position and a planning tech that came mid-year. I am very thankful for that mid-year position, and the next chart will show you why. Fiscal '25, we're adding a planner 3 to work on mostly long-range stuff, and a code enforcement officer, where code enforcement's going to transition over to planning from Public Works. Next chart is our permit levels for the last 5 fiscal years. You can see the growth in permitting from 23 to 24 was up 50%, or 49.9%, so 50. That planning tech position is 75, 80% working on new single-family home permits and zoning letters that go with those, and then working on things like sign permits or trade permits or things related to that, and some planning tasks as well. And so we could see last fiscal year that permitting levels were increasing month over month, same month the year before. And so having those positions added were very timely for us. As you can see, the new single-family growth last fiscal year was almost 1,300. Trade permits were up, residential accessory were up, and so commercial permits, to give you a little background of what those are, those new commercial buildings, they could be commercial remodels of buildings like in downtown. Those are Wake Tech buildings, those are Tree Light, City Barbecue. Those also include community pool and amenity buildings in neighborhoods. They also include signs that have electrical inspections with them, that they're lit up and need those. So it's a wide variety. They also can include apartment buildings. We did not permit any new apartments in fiscal '24, so that number for commercial that you see does not include any apartment buildings. All the apartment buildings that are currently under construction were permitted the year before. Residential accessory, those are garage, those are a 10 by 20 shed in your backyard, those are solar panels on your home, those can also be some remodel additions to your home. New single-family homes are exactly what it is. That's a new single-family home getting constructed. Trade permits can be HVAC replacements, they can be EV chargers, they can also be RPZs for water connections, that like a remodel on a building. So there's a wide variety of the trade permits as well. I can answer any questions on this chart. I know there's a lot of numbers on there, so if there's any specific questions, I can. Okay. So to give you a little data behind that, so Wendell Planning does 3 site visits for every new house. We do a zoning setback check, which we go out to see, is the home getting the foundation getting built where you said it was going to get built and meet our setback requirements. So staff goes out, measures from the foundation markings to the property line, is the 10-foot setback there? Yes, we verify. We also go out, check the foundation. So you know those little zoning conditions? When it says, you know, the foundation must have brick or stone and be 12 inches off the ground, we are checking for that on a foundation survey. And then zoning final inspection, we go back out when the house is pretty much finished and make sure they have their required street trees, their landscaping around the HVAC units, and is the sod was the sod installed and everything is good. In between all of those inspections, Wake County checks for building code. So they do all of the plumbing, the electrical, the mechanical inspections along the way. So from a staff perspective, foundation surveys and setback checks, we did 2,800 of them last year. Zoning final inspections, which are pretty much on any new garage, new home, those are all, we did about 1,400. And then some other tasks throughout the year, those pesky little signs that you see at intersections, we removed 551 of those last fiscal year, as we continue to remind people to not clutter up our intersections with their signs. And then we also managed cemetery, and so we marked off 108 grave markings last year. So that is kind of our inspection data. We average 18 inspections per day, and so staff every morning pulls a list of inspections that get requested through the system. And we can no longer not prioritize and list them out, which geographically makes sense, because you would spend half of your day running around Wendell if you didn't. And so, you know, may start at Wendell Falls and wrap our way around town to make sure we're efficient with those inspections. So if it's a block of townhomes at Mackenzie Meadows, you do all 5 of those at once. And so kind of sort in the system each day. Adding a code enforcement officer this year will help with backup, because right now, if our zoning enforcement officer is on vacation, planners go out and do those inspections. And so having some backup with a code enforcement officer will be very, very helpful for staff. Some permitting data, single-family homes. Wendell Falls is 25% of our new home permits. 3 years ago, it was about 95%. And so we are, they are 25%, still significant. Their numbers have not dropped. It's just the rest of the town has a lot of other neighborhoods for permitting. Residential accessory, I always like this kind of data. We issued 34 home solar panel permits last year. 50% of our trade permits were HVAC replacements, and 65 were EV chargers. A lot of permitting for those. Builders are actually installing them at times with their new home permit, which is helpful because it's not a separate permit for us. So those were 65 separate permits for EV chargers in their garages. Commercial permits came from everywhere. Tree Light Square, all the buildings, all the signs from Tree Light. And then you have downtown building renovations are all permits and Wake Tech. So those commercial permits are from a wide variety of areas. Fiscal year 25 permitting projections, we are not seeing a slowdown. The increase is more manageable than it was last year, so we expect things to still increase, but not at that 50% rate. Interest rates are playing a role in home purchases and funding for commercial projects, so we do expect if interest rates drop, permitting levels will increase. As you can see, even with the interest rates where they are, our permitting levels were strong. We have Tree Light Phase 3, so if you think about all the businesses that will go in a commercial mixed-use building, there is individual permits for upfit, signs, and a lot of other things that go into that. And then Wendell Commerce Center is expected to start construction on some of the industrial this fiscal year as well. So I can field any questions you have on permitting. Just thought I'd give you an update of where we were this last fiscal year.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good information.
And real quick, I mean, I know it's data heavy, but that's a really great presentation. I don't know that I've seen one of
It
those
is.
before, so thank you. And
You're welcome.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a nice overview of what y'all are, I know y'all do a ton of stuff, everybody, on a
It's nice
day-to-day
to
basis.
see it, though.
See it, that little summary is nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It kind of blows your mind if you think about it. That doesn't even include the driveway permits, the sidewalk permits, the stormwater and street permits that Public Works inspectors are doing as part of that dance also. I mean, it's a very coordinated and involved process to get to that point.
Can't wait to hear that presentation.
It's coming.
It's a good time to hear all these because we're at beginning of the fiscal year, halfway through the calendar year. It's kind of take a look at that.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, item 4D is our IT resiliency plan presentation. We're going to hear from Gregory Kipiego, and we're so happy to have you out here tonight.
Thank you. This
So
is the,
nice to see you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's the first time I'm coming out of the AV room.
Yeah. Welcome to the boardroom.
Thank you. I get to feel what everybody's been feeling on this
That's
side.
right, that's right.
I realized that it was overrated.
Yeah, I know.
Go back soon.
Rather be back there.
Thank you. So the presentation tonight is for IT resiliency plan. So the town of Wendell's IT resiliency plan focuses on the outcomes of the risk assessment conducted by the IT department in 2023 and the upcoming business impact analysis. So by implementing the plan, the town can minimize downtime, protect against data loss, and maintain operational continuity through unplanned events. This presentation will provide an overview of the work completed and the next steps towards achieving that resiliency. So the town of Wendell's IT resiliency plan focuses on the outcomes of the risk assessment we conducted in 2023. And so by implementing the plan, the town can minimize downtime, protect against data loss, maintain operational continuity, through unplanned events. So if there was an unplanned event, let's say there was one of the servers went down, if there was a power failure, things like that, we want to ensure that there's that continuity and people are still able to work and people are still able to, to do their jobs. And technology is there to support them. And we want to make sure that that technology is available for them to continue working. So why should we have the resiliency plan? So the resiliency plan provides the capability of the town's information technology to withstand the shock of unexpected disruptions and then rebound back to acceptable state of operation. So the purpose of IT resiliency plan. So the first purpose of IT resiliency plan is to ensure that the town maintains its core IT functions and business processes in the face of disruptive events and changing environments. The IT operational resiliency plan ensures that the town is able to support staff to provide services to residents in the face of disruptive events. It also reduces staff downtime. So if there was any glitch on the system, as Brian was talking about permitting and things like that, we want to make sure that we're able to support, IT is able to support all the departments to make sure that they have what they need to be able to achieve success in their fields. So IT resiliency takes a proactive approach to define the steps that the town must take to prevent such disruptions. So the resiliency plan also minimizes downtime and protects against data loss. We don't want to lose the data that we've so very much worked hard to bring together and compile. So the resiliency plan is going to make sure that we keep that data and that data is safeguarded. So how does the IT resiliency plan now ties to the town's strategic initiatives? So it ties with Goal 5, which is organization, culture, and communication. So the specific strategic initiative is to develop resilient technology resources for the town organization to ensure that services are maintained through crisis, and technology is updated to achieve efficiencies and accessibility in program delivery. So this is what we call our road to resiliency. So how do we move from where we are right now to the point where we're going to say we are resilient or our technology is resilient of these disruptions? So as you can see, right now we are on step 5 of 7. So the initial step was cataloging all the IT assets, basically making sure that we have all the inventory of the assets that we have. And then assigning each asset an asset value. So basically, the value is going to obviously be different from the value when it was purchased, but it's calculated based on how much was it purchased, how long have we had this particular asset, and what's the estimated depreciation value for you to be able to get the current value. And then the third step was creating awareness and obtaining support from management. Appreciate Stephanie and Mark on that. And then the fourth step, which we did last year, was the risk assessment. So it's internal. So it's internal risk assessment. And then now this year, our plan is to do a business impact analysis. So now we've identified the risk in the risk assessment. What's the impact of this risk? What happens? What would potentially go down, or what would be the impact of those risks if they were to happen? And then going into the future, looking at continuity plan. Okay, so they've happened, and now we know the impact. How do we continue from there? And then now, how do we recover after we had that particular disruption? And then risk assessment. So as part of IT resiliency plan, we did a risk assessment last year. So for us to arrive to the risk assessment, we had 8 steps that we took to get to the final document. So the first step was initiation and planning, so where we did set up clear objectives. And then the second step was asset identification, where we identified and inventoried all assets, including switches, access points, recovery appliance, phone system, audiovisual equipment, computers. So we we identified all those assets. And then we looked at what are the threats that each of these assets actually face. So if it's for example, a server, or if it's, for example, a phone system, if it's, for example, emails, what are those particular threats that these assets do face? And then the fifth step was risk analysis, analyzing those risks and looking at it and saying, is this actually going to happen? And if it would happen, what would be those control activities in step 6? And then if they happen, after we implement those control activities, what are the post-event mitigation strategies? How do we prevent it from happening in the future? And then lastly is documenting and reporting. Next. So IT risk assessment will help us to, one, identify conditions or situations that may cause a business process outage, determine the probability of the risk actually occurring. It will help us to be able to pinpoint the threats and assets across all areas that may affect technology functionality. It is going to assist in determining how to prevent outages, and it's also going to assist in reducing the impact of those outages. So what are our next steps? So as I mentioned earlier, we identified some of the risks, and then we recommended some control activities. So this year we are implementing control activities. If, for example, one of the things that had been identified, for example, is there's a possibility of compromised accounts. Do we need to implement a second factor for people to verify? To authenticate themselves? If it's failover, do we need to increase backups? Things like that. So implementing those control activities is what we'll be doing this year, and also conducting the business impact analysis, working to see what are the potential impacts of these disruptions on business operations, and then prioritizing recovery efforts. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right, any questions from the board?
No, I'll just make a comment.
Okay.
We saw planning and we saw analysis multiple times, and it was just a very short time ago that we didn't really have either of those. And saw a little dice icon, and that's kind of the way our plan was previously, I think. We just hoped that nothing happened, and
No,
so
nothing
you-
happened.
You being here, I say that to say that you being here is a big thing, obviously, and we're appreciative of your efforts for sure.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
But a lot of people don't realize all the work you did in this building.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We know, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, item 4E is a 2025 strategic plan process presentation. We're going to hear from the town manager.
I'd like just to recognize, I think we got some rain going on.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't happened in a while, so I'm pretty sure that's the sound of
I didn't
rain
know
on a
what it
metal
was. I
roof.
could hear noises and wasn't sure what it was. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping that is. I'd like to just recognize Gregory again on there's so much work that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And having Gregory and also Stephanie working with him on that, and then just working through all the departments, it makes my job a lot easier knowing that there's staff capability like that.
Most people have no idea
Yeah.
what he provides
It's
for us.
phenomenal. In that area these days, it's not if, it's just when you're going to be impacted, as a lot of our neighbors have seen recently, everywhere from fireworks shows to their whole system. So this kind of thinking is, there's things that we proactively do and put patches on as soon as we find out, and then there's other things that we are constantly thinking forward and being resilient as we move forward, and that's a lot with Gregory and his capabilities and the additional staff person we're also adding, so that there's resiliency to the person as well with that position moving forward.
Go on vacation.
Yeah, every now and then, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've been told. All right. So I think the last couple meetings and potentially when we get into the August meetings, you'll see a recurring theme of updates on different topics and issues. And a lot of that's keep y'all informed and the community informed, but it's also to prepare you for your every 2-year strategic planning process. So in 2025, we expect a new strategic plan to be adopted to replace our current 2023 plan. Most people listening, since it's every 2 years and you can see what population growth we've had, probably don't know what a strategic plan is. So if y'all bear with me, it aligns our commitment, the commitment that you make in the policy direction of the town as leaders of the town, between the assessed condition where things are currently and that vision of the future. How do we close that gap between where we are and where we want to be? Okay. That vision can only be achieved when y'all's strategic goals are in alignment with the resources that are provided. If resources aren't allocated, then there shouldn't be an expectation to achieve vision. So a strategic plan incorporates that vision and also 5 broad policy goals, which we'll see in a moment. It also identifies management and progress. That's often past initiatives that have been in place that staff's saying, we're committing to completing this in the next 2 years. And then strategic initiatives are things that are ongoing. A lot of things take a lot more than 2 years to get accomplished. And so they carry on from strategic plan to strategic plan, or it may be new strategic direction. The strategic planning process takes place to guide the next 2 fiscal years, is created the year after a municipal election, and guides that current board's vision for the next 2 fiscal years. And then we repeat it. So there's an expectation of the next board coming in to have their chance to influence policy in their time on the board for the community that they're serving. Within our budget document, you can find our vision statement for the town of Wendell. Part of that strategic plan review is for the board to review that vision statement, which y'all will do again at your fall retreat, as well as 5 broad policy goals. The policy goals are, again, broad. They're not intended to change significantly. You generally have goal 1 of economic development, community character, get into public safety and the safety of our neighborhoods in goal 2, all things infrastructure and environment in goal 3, anything parks and rec, cultural, special events in 4, and then much like Gregory was talking about with IT, what's our communication, what's the structure of our organization, what's the culture that we work in, and how do we communicate both internally and externally. Looking at the process, surprise I'm here, so July is the kickoff for the strategic planning process. The department heads have already been challenged to look at the current 2023 strategic plan, identify where they see getting those initiatives within this last fiscal year, what's going to be finished, what's carrying over. Are there any new things on their horizon that they want to make you aware of as a board that may come up in the next 2 years so that you'll have your best information for your discussion when we get to your retreat? Another thing that'll be kicking off here in the next week plus is the National Citizen Survey. We'll send a communication out to you like we did last time that lets you know what's going out, how this works. Through that survey process. That's a statistically valid sampling process to get feedback on a consistent questioning over time, which will be of value to us. In September, I'll be meeting with y'all individually, just kind of have those one-on-one conversations to go, you know, what's been on your mind, just to listen and understand where y'all are. Answer any questions you may have, ask if things I've heard in the past are still of interest, or are there new things that you want to be brought in. That helps me for when we get to our retreat that is you can put tentatively on your schedule October 12th. We have checked football schedules and other applicable things to look at. And that will give us hopefully an opportunity to at least let you get to a home game if it's an afternoon game.
Checking my calendar right now.
Yeah,
Football.
we're trying. Yeah, we had to look through a number of weeks to get to the one weekend that seemed to work. Also considering when is Harvest Fest, it'll be an afternoon game. 3 o'clock game will be done in the
You
morning.
sure?
Yeah,
Syracuse, I'm just saying.
it's Syracuse.
I know, but I'm
Chalk the
saying.
W up and move on.
All right.
Should I have said that? I'm an App State grad. It doesn't bother me.
Your turn. It's on my team.
The important team in North Carolina is not playing that day.
Oh, yeah, they
Just
are.
oh, are they?
You wanna get
Definition of
all
which team is most important.
Whichever one is in your head, sir.
that. Yeah.
Moving on into November is when the National Citizen Survey results are returned. The draft initiatives from the retreat are put together for the first time, and before I go public with anything, I want y'all to see what those National Citizen Survey results are and those initiatives. At that point, they're presented out to your appointed boards, so we go and get feedback in specific areas there. Much like last time, we'll also go out with 4 different community charrettes, including in this area, Wendell Falls, Pleasant Grove, and out in Edgemont. So get different geographic areas for people to show up and tell us what they think is important of the draft initiatives. When we get into February, we'll present out the draft plan and also get into plan adoption by the board. We will likely do at budget retreat the ranking process that will also fall in that time period as well. As I mentioned before, the adopted plan will be included in the budget documents for both fiscal year 26 and 27 and guide resource allocation and prioritization by staff, and hopefully the board sees their strategic vision being represented within those budgets. One thing that you'll see now, post-COVID, starting back this year, is regular report of financial strategic plan initiatives, as well as the performance measurements from the budget. So obviously, we don't have July's yet, and so they'll tend to lag a month. So we'll start getting the first numbers for you in August, and having those available. And the typical, if there's any questions, I'll be here available for you. But that'll be kicking back up this year as well. So 3 different reports, second meeting of each month, starting in August. And then we just repeat every 2 years, and
Start over.
yeah, things get done. Glad to answer any questions about the strategic planning process, or if there's any input or suggestions on how we may improve it this year before we get going.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move into our administrative items. Item 6A is a donation agreement for the acquisition of 21 West Boxley Street. We'll hear from Matt Garner.
Good evening.
Good evening.
As you mentioned, this is a donation agreement for 21 West Boxley Street, which is a 0.6 acre piece of property all the way at the end, the west end of Boxley, at the end of the cul-de-sac. So we were approached by a representative of the current property owner who is interested in donating the property to the town, given that it is not currently occupied and not developed, and that it is adjacent to a lot of other town property. We were interested in moving forward with the board's consent, obviously. The donation agreement is structured exactly similarly to what a purchase and sale agreement would be. However, there is no cash consideration. It includes a 90-day due diligence period, which for our purposes allows us to use brownfield money, which is in the next item on the agenda, as well as any title work that may be necessary in those 90 days, followed by a 30-day closing for a 120-day total process time. You had the donation agreement in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Yeah.
I think I saw this in the donation agreement, but can you just confirm for me that this is not any kind of time-limited property interest? It's the fee simple acquisition of the property.
It is fee simple. I would also defer to Mr. Cawley.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the donation agreement to receive property at 21 West Boxley Drive and authorize the town manager to sign following legal review by the town attorney.
All right, we have a motion to approve the donation agreement to receive property at 21 Boxley Drive and authorize the town manager to sign following legal review by the town attorney. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. Item 6B is a Geosyntec Task Order 11, Environmental Site Assessment for 21 West Boxley Drive.
Thank you. Task Order 11 is the newest task order under the town's master service agreement with Geosyntec, our EPA Brownfield Grant Administration firm. The task order scope is a little broader than the normal Phase 1, as it includes Phase 2 and what is known as a Site-Specific Quality Assurance Project Plan, or everyone's favorite acronym, QAP. The proposed work would be conducted during the aforementioned due diligence period in coordination with the current property owner. As it is next to the former town landfill, we think that this work is necessary and important. All proposed work, would be covered under the town's current assessment grant, and the total budgeted amount for this portion of that master service agreement is $11,627. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about the process or the task order.
Okay, any questions from the board? Yeah.
I'm okay with the 11,627 out of the grant. I guess my question is, are we, assuming it's okay, are we able to develop this at some point, or is there a philosophy on what we might do with it at some point?
We could be able to develop it. All the site work does is tell us what's in there. And before we take ownership of the property, that allows us a lot more options once we have ownership of the property. So it may be developed, or could be developed. We just don't know until they get in the ground.
Got it, thank you.
Councilman, I would also elaborate that a significant portion of the property is in floodplain, and this is immediately adjoining Buffalo Creek. And so the term development would loosely be defined to environmental open space and passive recreation.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right,
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve Task Order 11 of the town's agreement with Geosyntec to complete an environmental assessment at 21 West Boxley Drive.
all right, thank you. We have a motion to approve a Task Order 11 of the town's agreement with Geosyntec to complete an environmental assessment at 21 Boxley Drive. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. We have no other business. Let's move into our commissioners' comments, and we'll start tonight with Commissioner Lutz. Commissioner Eatman?
1 minute on the clock to make this a 1-hour meeting, nothing else from me.
Okay. Commissioner Honeycutt?
Man, I'm going to have to break that, I'm sorry. And again, ironically, I hope this doesn't come across as disingenuous, but, you know, we always thank staff, well-deserved, and I'm going to give you one quick anecdote that I'm going to tell you why I say this. I had many positive responses over the firework, and I know it's not just the police department or public works, it's the town manager, it's all the pieces behind the scenes to make sure those things go off successfully. This family, a family of three kids, and obviously mom and dad, they got there late, they got there efficiently, they got parked, they saw the fireworks, they got home safely, and I emphasize they got home safely. They enjoyed it. When I was in a town this size growing up, we didn't have these things. So, this is why my second point to Commissioner Eatman and to the other fellow electeds up here, staff deserves the thanks, no doubt. But the electeds here prior to me have done a heck of a job running this town and providing the resources to staff. So I just want to make sure I say it on the record. You guys have done a heck of a job making Wendell, and perhaps I'm a bit spoiled, but I've heard other stories from other municipalities, and I would think that Wendell appears to be the gold standard. Very happy to be up here. So thank you to all the staff, and thank you to the people up here also. Thanks.
Commissioner Deloach?
No comment tonight, Madam Mayor.
Real quickly, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I was at the fireworks show, and I got to hang out with a lot of the town staff, which we don't get to do very often, which was really fun, so thank y'all. I think I saw every department head that we have from there and down, and it was all hands on deck, and it was really nice. And it was nice to see how much fun that y'all were all having with each other. It was really nice. We've come a long way. So that was nice to see. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.